basically we're reaching out to people who have never heard from us before, effectively trying to sell them what it is that we sell at like the 80,000 foot view. And that's something that we as human beings have been doing basically throughout all of human history. So it's evolved. We probably won't talk about the caveman days when it comes to this. I'll try to keep it in relatively to modern history, but yeah, it's like, look, like you're trying to sell something, you need new business from new people. You know, it doesn't really matter if you're selling another business, another individual. How do you get their attention? How do you get into a conversation with them, some form of a conversation with them so that they understand what you're all about and how you can help them ideally? For me, like, and I could be really dating myself here. For me, I think of telemarketing. Like I think about when I was a kid and we all had home phones, right? Like many of the people on my team don't remember what life was like with that, by the way. And someone would call during dinner and it would be hugely annoying. And it became like a cliche, like, oh, can you imagine taking a call at dinner, you know, come up with an excuse because you didn't want to talk to anybody. Why are you calling me at home? Why are you trying to sell me anything? Who are you to try to sell me anything right now? And that's what it was. It was us using a very common channel, a common medium to get in touch with people that we've never spoken before because we thought we might be able to get business from them.
What would you think, like, was it majority all B2C interactions like that? I mean, the B2B world that we're all in did that too, though, right? I mean, those big tele sales units back in the day, those were around, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was just my like own sort of visceral personal belief of that. But companies have been on it for just as long, if not longer, right? Yeah, I mean, I think that my general take on the whole timeline here is like none of that is going to change. The mediums that we were using will certainly change on their own, but inherently, what makes prospecting sort of good, right? Like what makes it really effective, and it has been since back in the day, is really establishing an authentic human connection with someone, right? Because that's how you can actually get somebody to pay attention, to really weed you out positively from the rest of all the noise. That might be actually an even better way to put it, is prospecting is noise, and good prospecting is understanding how to rise above all the rest of the noise. And yeah, businesses have actually had the tall task of needing to do this perhaps at greater scale than the B2C and the individual prospecting as well.
There's large call centers, you know, dial for dollars, all the old mantras that we all know about, that all stem from what you were talking about. Yeah, essentially the creation of this new medium, this telephone popping out, and a bunch of organizations as well as, you know, people trying to monetize that or trying to develop those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. Direct mail, right? That's another big one, right? Both B2C and even B2B, right? That's like coming back now, right? That was a big thing. Then it completely fell out of vogue. And now it's like, wait a minute, you know, it's like went from mails to emails, now back to mail. It's like, it's just repeating itself basically. The first thing you got to think about is the fact that the nature of prospecting is incredibly tactical, right? Like people do not want to talk to new people trying to sell them something, right? So in order to do something that makes your breakthrough more effective, you're constantly needing to change your tactics, because the nature of tactics is that they're fleeting, right? What worked a year ago will not work today, especially if you're selling to progressive and like high tech companies on the leading edge of things, right? I don't necessarily know what the breakout is of all the listeners, but if you sell, for example, to other software companies, other internet companies, you know, like high end services, they're getting prospected to all the time. They themselves have to do it as well. So again, like the things that they're seeing today that's not getting their attention were probably really novel just about 12 or 18 months ago. So companies that are best in class, one, understand that the tactics of prospecting are always changing and they're on the bleeding edge. But inherently, I actually think it kind of goes back to something that I said a little earlier, is that the companies that are truly, truly, truly best in class are the ones that actually understand that even though the tactics are going to change, the need to establish a meaningful connection, one that makes the person that you're prospecting feel like you really understand them and you took the time to get to know them, to earn their time. That's always going to rise above everything else. I think one of my favorite sayings, and we use it here at SalesLoft all the time, is, go the extra mile because it's never crowded. And that's what I think about when you want to deliver a best in class prospecting strategy, whether you're doing it as a business or as an individual. It's like, what are you doing to make that prospect feel? Because at the end of the day, it really is about feeling, right? That you took the time to understand them and you're communicating that to them in a variety of different ways. Not to take it back to the past, right? But before, like, if you could call somebody randomly and have a talk track based on what they did, you didn't need to know like anything about them personally. You didn't, just the fact that you were calling a particular director of a certain function, and you already thought through how your particular product could help that particular person in that particular function, or that particular type of persona in that function, that stood above the noise. Now, persona-based templates, they're pretty standard, right? Like, you might get a few people that go, okay, yeah, that really helps me, but that's hardly, rising above the noise. Now, and to some degree, I think people were still doing this in the past, is doing as much research as you can on the individual company, on the individual themselves, crafting like a really, really meaningful approach to get them to go, wow, this person really took the time to understand what I'm going through as a person, based on my title, based on the company that I work at, based on who I am. That's what's gonna get you to kind of stand out across everybody else. And all of the channels, the mediums that you might use to do that, that's always going to change, right? Whether that's you're doing it directly on LinkedIn messaging, whether you're using a sales engagement platform, whether you're just dialing them at a time where you've gotten data to know that they're most likely going to be available for a call. All of that stuff is going to change, but what you say and when you say it and how you say it, the importance of that, I think, probably will never go away.
I love the take. And certainly that hook or that medium, I think about the medium as being really the hook. Did I catch their attention? Is this shiny enough? Is it cool enough to stand out above the noise? You talked a lot about prospecting as it relates to really personalization, right? Delivering a very highly personalized, highly relevant, at the right time to the right audience with the right message type of delivery. There's a constant battle in our world, right? Where we're battling between personalization versus scale. How many people can I actually reach with that? I've got numbers to hit, Gerry. How do I actually achieve that? How can I get that level of personalization that I'm looking for to get the response rates that my customers deserve, while also reaching out to enough customers so that it works out?
Yeah, great question, right? It's really like a matter of, in my opinion, just like practicing like anything else, right? There are a lot of good frameworks out there that'll teach you to go, here are the 5 things, for example, that I need to reach out to somebody. I'm going to goal myself on getting it done in 5 minutes, right? That's a good approach. But also be cognizant of who your buyers are and where they are, right? If you're selling to other software companies or just bigger companies where there's a lot of information out there on the internet about the individual organization. You might have 10Ks. Frankly, I love Google News, right? Like, you can learn a lot about executives, what they're saying, what the strategy for a bigger company is, literally just in the news section of Google. But in other cases, you might not actually have a lot of information on people. And that's when it gets important to sort of tier your approach, right? Like, there's tier 1, for example, where these are the creme de la creme, ideal customer profiles, which could actually be also, the definition of that could be expanded to how easy it is it to actually get information on these people so that I can craft something personal. Then there's that kind of tier 2 of, look, all I really do know is what they do and the company that they work for, but I don't know much beyond that. that's where you might need to take either more of a template approach or approach other people within the company to gain information about them. It really depends on how complex or intense your motion is. And then you can have a third tier where maybe you are kind of focusing on doing something a little bit more automated. Personally, I'm not a fan of the automation stuff, but it actually does really work for certain companies selling into certain industries. So I'd still want to be cognizant of that. But look, I think that when we say personalization, right, that means a lot of things to a lot of different people. Right? I think the whole, hey, I saw you went to this college and, that's great. Come buy my stuff now. Like, I think that worked a little bit, for a little while, because just like no one was doing it. It was novel. Like, oh, wow, they saw that I went to like the University of Kansas where like 10,000 other people, like, wow, no one's ever done that. So, but it's not, at the end of the day, like, is it relevant to who I am as a person? Is it relevant to a business problem that I'm really trying to solve? Is it really going to be worth my time, the 15, 30, whatever, 40 minutes that you're asking for? And like, at the end of the day, no, unless you can tie in something really meaningful to where I went to school, or the fact that I like tennis, or like the fact that, I moved from one city to another, from one company to another. Shy of that, like, that is no longer going to be the level of personalization that I think is going to get people to move. I think the mediums and the technology and all of that will continue to evolve, right? I think that LinkedIn may become, for example, less of a breeding ground for prospecting. You never know, right? Email, or how we do email, will hopefully change repeatedly. There are probably going to be a lot more. I'm hoping like these chat features get a lot better, because I don't know, I think they're pretty weak personally. But I think the nature of us needing to be relevant and us needing to establish a human connection, like that's not going to change. There is a lot of talk of AI sort of replacing the prospector or the SDR or the AE. And like, I don't really buy that at all. Like, I think that AI will definitely be better at automating some process. It might actually allow prospectors, SDRs, whoever, to sort of focus on deeper, more strategic pieces of the selling cycle. Again, depending on your business and how complex that selling cycle is. But I just don't see a machine yet for a very long time replacing what a human, again, doing the right things, putting the right level of attention into establishing a connection. I don't see a machine really replacing that, because even today, like, I can tell when something's automated. I can tell when something is canned. I can tell when something is very sophisticated, but still not that person putting in the time and not them actually tying something meaningful to what I'm trying to do as a leader or as a buyer. So I think you're going to see more of that. Like, you're going to see more technology come out. You're going to see more vendors probably promising that they can automate every little aspect of the sales cycle or the prospecting cycle. And to some degree, like, they will be able to do that for sure. But I don't see the prospector themselves going away.
No kidding. So the role is still going to be in existence. The medium is likely to change. Things like, I don't know, I see all these crazy applications like Cameo being used for this, and they just released TikTok for Business. I don't know if you saw that, Gerry. That's pretty crazy, pretty shiny. I'm sure we're going to see some very creative uses of that in our prospecting motion. But prospectors, the job itself, the function, developing that initial first meaningful connection is not going to go away.
Yeah, and it just hasn't, even with all of the new technologies that have come up, even if you remember when Facebook came out, right, that was all about like, well, what's the point of this thing? Like, what are you trying to do? They'd always ask Zuckerberg, and it's like, just to develop connections, like it wasn't about selling ads. It wasn't about like buying VR equipment. It wasn't about sending satellites into space and getting Wi-Fi. It was establishing about a human connection. And by the way, like, all of the things that they've done since, I think, drives back to that mission. And That's because there's really nothing that makes things move versus humans connecting with humans. And the TikTok stuff, Instagram, LinkedIn, it's all about people still having a real conversation with another person. So if you are one of those people who's like, look, like I really need to invest in every new technology and every cool tool, like think about how it's going to drive that mission of connecting your prospector or your salesperson or whoever with another human being that can make a decision in a really meaningful way. And it's not always about how many more people can I talk to. It's about how can I talk to more people.